intro, so we're not doing it. Without Dan, it's not happening. So we're the Uncle Puckers. What's up, everybody? Dan is no longer here. Well, he'll be back. He's on vacation, so he's got all our sounders and shit, so we had nothing. So me, Tony, and Bobby, sorry about the screwed up intro, but you know what you're getting.
Just trying to bring you some hockey talk in the middle of the
summer.
summer.
That's all. I mean, it's you're not here for the intro. You can listen to Ken Danico every single game. You don't have to hear him introducing us. So how you guys doing tonight?
You can listen to him on our channel.
Actually, they were replaying on the NHL Network. They were replaying the 2000 Cup Final against Dallas, and then 2001 against the Avalanche. So I watched the third period. Well, no, actually the first overtime and the rest of the overtime in Game 6 of the Dallas series, and I turned off the Colorado series because I don't want to.
That one hurts too much.
It's crazy how long ago it was now, right? You look back at those games and it's just time is just flying. You're like, holy shit, man! Like, 95, whenever they have like every couple of years, they're like, it's been 15 years, it's been 20. I'm like, holy shit, man. I'm like, it doesn't seem like yesterday anymore, but still, I mean, time is rolling.
It's amazing how fast you can go without winning a championship, right? 20 years, and we're just the fortunate ones. There were Cubs fans out there, 100 years or whatever.
You're not kidding. Hey, go through how many teams in the NHL that have never won a cup. I mean,
right.
I think Buffalo Sabre fans are probably they got to be the biggest. Like, you can't complain at all to a Buffalo Sabre fan. Like, it's a Minnesota Viking fan of hockey. It really is. Like, no matter what, you're so good. Sometimes you just get so close and you just can't win it. So I would at some point like to see Buffalo win.
Chris, I was talking to my wife the other day about the Detroit Lions, actually. We were watching that. Actually, we were watching the quarterback series on Netflix. And they had the Lions, and I was explaining to my wife, I said, I don't know if I can think of a team that would probably be, it'd be pretty miserable being a Lions fan. I couldn't imagine buying season tickets. It's just a team that every year I expect them to not be that great.
Well, the whole team is run. It was just, they're run very poorly. Their front office is terrible. They've gone through so many, first round or, top picks, first, second, third pick quarterbacks. They've gone through coaches left and right. Nothing could stick there. They actually have a really good team now. They should be. I mean, they are the favorites to win the NFC North as far as. Well, Vegas does have them as favorites too, but most of the national media has them. Like, I still, because of what you just said, excuse me, like, I can't get behind Detroit. Like, I'm not buying that stock. It's
you were talking about the Browns last week.
It's been really bad for really long that I just don't know if it could ever kind of. I'll believe it when I see it. As far as the Browns, like you said, I think the Browns are actually going to be really
I think they're
good.
going to be killer, but it's hard to grip it. It's like, man, I just know that the fans of, you've seen it so many years. You're like, how many times, even as whatever team I like with the Raiders, I'm like, oh, cool. There were so many years I'm like, okay, we're playing the Lions this weekend. This should be okay.
No, you can't do that anymore.
You can't do that anymore.
Not with the Lions. There are, now this year you can do that when you play the Cardinals or the Buccaneers. I think those teams are going to be pretty bad.
I think the Lions fans are tired of looking at the highlight of their schedule as the Thanksgiving Day game, or are they finally like, Jesus Christ, can I just eat at home for 1 year? Why do we get the game every year?
Them and Dallas. That's
horrible.
It. I love Thanksgiving.
I love the games on Thanksgiving. Just switch up the teams.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There are a few things. Like, so much has changed over the course of sport in the last 10 or 20 years. I kind of like that there are some traditions that they don't waver from. Like Dallas and Detroit, instead of pulling them off of Thanksgiving, they just added another game, which I'm fine with.
Right.
Just add the late game. But Dallas and Detroit play home games on Thanksgiving. It's been that way as long as I could remember. I mean, at my age, I don't remember ever having a Thanksgiving where those two teams weren't playing. So I guess it's been going on for...
There's a ton of traditions that I am a huge fan of, sports or not, just not that one.
Yeah,
just
I get
tired
it.
Of those
I get
two.
it.
I do like the extra game, though, because I fucking hate preseason. I don't know, preseason to me, I know it's more important than the All-Star games by far, but it kind of, as the entertainment-wise, like the what was it, the Hall of Fame game the other night? Right?
Yeah, it was Thursday.
After
night.
like a couple minutes, you're just like, okay, cool, football's back. But you
also have to understand how football has changed a lot as far as when coaches are doing player evaluations, they're really not doing a whole lot of. They're doing evaluations during the preseason, but they're not implementing anything. They're not giving you any film to. They're not going to show you their offensive or defensive system. They're going to run vanilla plays. They're going to just see if you can do the job, and they have a bunch of rookies or just guys trying to make the team. That's why no starters really play anymore in the preseason. The coaches glean really kind of put their system together during the joint practices and during that kind of stuff, a lot more so than the preseason. I mean, I remember being a kid, preseason was your starters were in there for the first half, especially in the fourth game. Now there's only 3 preseason
now
games.
They may do 2 drives.
The fourth preseason game, your starters, some of the times would play there the whole game, but, the first half definitely. Now, when you have a quarterback making $40-50 million a year, you're not throwing him out there in preseason. You're not going to go watch, Patrick Mahomes take snaps against a third string, Charger team. It's just not going to happen. So the preseason is fun for exactly like you said. It's fun for 5 minutes. It's fun for the first quarter, and then it's like, all right, I've seen enough. This is like worse than USFL or XFL football. So yeah. And hockey is a lot different because the game is the game. Yes, the production or as far as the talent on the ice is not going to be as good as, of course, the regular season. But you do have that, few dudes. Everybody's playing, so you are seeing your guys, and you're seeing a bunch of names that you don't see a lot, and you can kind of glean a lot off of who might make this team, who might not make this team, which is
the minor league a little bit better.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, you have really one open spot right now on this team that's kind of, for the Devils rather, that is really that third line winger. If Lindy Ruff puts lines together in the beginning as we kind of think he's going to, Palat and Hala are on that third line. Mm-hmm. So it's that winger spot next to him, next to Hala, that we don't know. That's the only one that's really going to be an open battle in camp. And it's probably going to come down to, Alex Holtz, Nolan Foote, and Graham Clark? I mean, is that really the 3 that you could see pushing for it?
Yeah. Who
do you think gets it?
Our division I actually do believe that our division is going to be a rough one this year. It's going to be tough, man. I mean, I was actually, we talked about Pittsburgh, how we thought they were going to I thought basically they were going to sell the farm this year and kind of try to, I got to say, they're making moves. Dubas is winning there.
They made one move. They're not making moves. They made a move.
I think Pittsburgh makes the playoffs now. I do. I think they might, they sneak in with a wild card. I do believe that.
I knew there was no way they were going to tear it down because when you have, Crosby, Malkin, Letang, they're not going to rip everything down and say, hey, Sid, thanks for everything, but we're rebuilding now and, have fun playing with a bunch of shitty kids.
Yeah. Make a respectable season, try to get in, hope for the best.
Right. I don't think the Erik Karlsson trade it's being made out to be that now Pittsburgh... Erik Karlsson cannot play defense. He's terrible at it. Pittsburgh has trouble scoring, so he's going to help. But it doesn't change the fact that the majority of their players are on the wrong side of 30. And I just don't know if they can hang with a lot of these younger teams that are coming up in the Metropolitan Division. I mean, Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh. Will they be in the playoffs? I don't know. I mean, when we sit down and really hammer out the Eastern Conference before the season starts, where we all put down where 1 through 16 everybody's going to go, that's going to be... fun to see where Pittsburgh. But I could see Pittsburgh being on the outside again this year.
My reaction to the trade was thinking back to our Eastern Conference preview, and I was thinking how they were like the mushy 4-5, right? Most of us probably thought they were in the same spot. Maybe one of us put them a little lower. And the only thing that really came to mind there was, all right, maybe now they've solidified that 4, over Washington type of thing. But I still don't know if that gets them in the playoffs. with the way the division's shaping up.
Ages, right? You got Carlson's 33, Crosby 36, Malkin 37, and Letang, 37.
And listen, you hate to admit this because the guy is still really, really good. But in my experience, when you take these ultra superstars and you start trading them a little easier, the team that has them knows a little more about them than everybody else. Right. I mean, like, no offense to PK Subban. I loved getting him here. I loved what he brought, not just his kind of energy, but for that 1 year, it did bring a little bit of legitimacy that someone like that was coming here. Yep. But he was not the PK of even Nashville, let alone Montreal. It does start to fall off. I'm not saying Carlson's fallen off. He's still great, but is he as great? No, probably not.
Is he great? Is he great?
He's offensively
great.
He's
a damn good player. I think he had a really good last year, and I think he's inconsistent. But
you have to also understand that where he was last year. He's playing for a San Jose Shark team that just stunk. They were a bad hockey team, and they couldn't score goals. So when the coaching staff is telling Erik Karlsson every time he's getting over the bench, go score. Just go score some goals.
You don't have to worry about anything else.
Exactly.
Plus, minus, let goals in, score.
Ottawa. He's just inconsistent.
But he did score in Ottawa, but that was how many years ago? I'm just saying that the Erik Karlsson right now, yes, he can score you some goals, but does Pittsburgh need a defenseman to just jump up into play and score goals? Because with the speed of some of these teams in the Eastern Conference, I see a guy like Erik Karlsson, just watching these guys.
I'll take Hamilton at this stage of his career over Karlsson any day right now.
I would too. Yeah, I would too. I understand why Pittsburgh did it, but it just seemed to me like that's a Kyle Dubas trade as much as I've ever seen a Kyle Dubas trade. Like, it's why? Because we wanted him and we needed him, or we thought we needed him. Like, I don't know if he moves the needle.
That's his
thing. What, Tony?
He's always adding pieces. That's his thing, as a fancy piece. I think what I get that in a couple years contract wise, this will definitely become something that's not 2 or 3 years down the road. It's going to be like
Well, also what they give up. I don't have the trade in front of me, but I recognize a name or two. I mean, they're not schlubs, right? So
they're not schlubs.
I mean,
no.
They got to make that up now too.
2024 draft pick San Jose acquired from Pittsburgh.
A first rounder, right? A first rounder.
A first rounder. 2024. Let's see. Mike Hoffman was part of that deal. It was a three-way deal with
with
Pittsburgh,
Montreal,
San Jose, and Montreal.
Oh, right.
So it's going to be interesting. And also, I don't think we talked about Tom Wilson getting 7 years at 45.5 contract. He'll be getting 7 years, so it's
I really like Tom Wilson. I wish he could stay healthy. That's a big problem for him, and again, Washington is another one of those teams that I'm like, are they really trying to win a Stanley Cup? Or is Washington's in a little bit of a different boat, I think, than Pittsburgh. As much as, are they really going all in to try and win the playoff, get to the playoffs and win a cup? Or is it, we just got to make sure that we have enough people around Ovi that he can get his 45 goals a year, break Gretzky's record in a couple of years, and that's it. Like, that's all I feel like this team is building for and playing for. But that's what it is. It is all about Ovechkin, and the next 2 years is going to be about that record. And I don't know. I mean, and when you see some of these teams, you know what was with Pittsburgh last year? You know what they showed me? Not just that they're old. And, like, we can say that with the Islanders. Like, the Islanders are just older and slower, and it's how they're built. And Pittsburgh, to me, looked like a team last year that just lost their hunger. They just didn't have that Pittsburgh Penguin, especially coming towards the playoffs. You don't want it last couple of years, but last year it fell off. I mean, they really cost themselves a playoff spot. I mean, nobody else did. They took it away from. Nobody went and took it from them. They gave it to Florida.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
Wheels fell off. I think if Yari plays well, and I do think they could sneak in with a wild card this year. But I'm not.
Well, you look at the Eastern Conference, right? The Columbus Blue Jackets are going to be a hell of a lot better.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think they're going to have the biggest increase from one season to next season in points this year, like out of any other team. I don't know how big that jump's going to be. The only thing that worries me a little bit about Columbus, like we always talk about Damon Severson and how much, of a liability he was until last year, where he was actually played okay.
Yeah, had a good playoffs.
But look where he was last year. on the third pairing. Look who he was playing against, not the team's best lines, and he played okay. Now, Columbus is putting a lot on the back of Damon Severson as a number one pairing. I'm just curious how he's going to play. But if they could stay healthy, they're going to be a very good team. Detroit Red Wings are going to be a lot better. Philadelphia is going to be garbage, but that's by design. Right. I can't fault Danny Briere when the old administration was selling the Flyer fans a bill of goods. Danny Briere comes in and says, "This is what we're doing." Tearing it down, bringing in a lot of old guys, alumni of Flyer fame to come in, show these guys the Flyer way, show these guys the culture that was built in that team in the 90s and early 2000s. I like what he's doing. Ottawa, going to be a lot better.
Yeah, Ottawa's going to be better.
A scary team, actually. Ottawa can be a scary team. Washington, Buffalo, I think, is on the bottom. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Tampa Bay is going to be there.
Florida's not going to have to squeak in at the end of the year again. They're going to get more points during the year.
See, I think Florida is going to be in the exact same position that they were in last year.
Really, with a whole year of Chuck again?
Yeah, because, first of all, they're so beat up still. They're not even going to be having – a lot of these dudes aren't even going to be suiting up in the beginning of the year. Between injuries and everything. How they struck lightning in a bottle last year, I don't think they can do it again. When you really look at Florida, yes, they're a good team, but they did lose a couple of guys. I think that Gudas going is going to hurt them. I don't think that Bobrovsky is this amazing goalie. So I don't know. I mean, I think Tampa Bay will be there. I think Buffalo is going to...
I guess the way I'm looking at it is kind of wrong, too, because they did get enough points to get in. So in the full spectrum of the year, they did take those points away from other teams. So, yeah, I guess I don't see them besting that. But I didn't see them suffering during the year either.
I don't think they would have beat Vegas, but I think those 11 games killed them. That fucking break just really screwed up there. I mean, I think it definitely did, 100%.
Florida went on a run, and it was awesome to see, but it was storybook. This shit that doesn't happen all the time. They were not the best team. I mean, just go back to I think it was game 5 or game 6, right? Marchand with like 30 seconds left on a breakaway. If Bobrovsky doesn't make that save, it's over, and who knows what Boston does in the playoffs. So, like, they had a lot of things go for them, and you need to make a run in the playoffs.
Yeah,
but Florida is not a team that scares me. Buffalo scares me. And I think that a lot of people are sleeping on Buffalo, saying, yeah, they're going to be a lot better. They're going to try and do a playoff, try and make the playoffs. I could see Buffalo doing similar to what the Devils did last season.
They are definitely up. They are at that point now where it's, okay, let's see what you got now. It's the cute puppy behind the fence or whatever is kind of moved on now. Now let's see some production.
What puppy?
Puppy.
All right, how about this? Before we get into anything else, I'm going to give you guys Eastern Conference teams, and you're going to tell me yay or nay if they're going to the playoffs. Okay? Toronto.
Yes.
So I think we all think that Toronto is going to the playoffs. Boston.
It's hard to say no, but I don't know. There's so much shit's happened on that team. I mean...
How about we keep a question mark next to Boston until we get through all these, and we'll see how many we actually have in there. So we'll do a question mark, because I feel the same way if you guys have just scratched.
I know they're going to fall down. I just don't know they're going to fall out.
Florida.
I'm going to say yes.
I'm going to stick with yes, yeah, from the comment I just made, so yeah.
I'm going to say no. Carolina.
Yes.
Yes. Rangers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we all agree the first 3 are going to be on our division.
Devils, no way. They suck.
Yes, and yes.
Devils. Yes.
Islanders.
No.
I'll go no. Pittsburgh.
I'm going to say yes. Wild card.
I'm going to go no for right now until I see this shape up.
Okay. Montreal.
No.
I'm going to go hell no.
I'm going to say no also.
Buffalo.
I'm going to say yes.
I'm going to say no.
Really? No. I'm going yes.
I'm going to say no, and I'm not convinced on that, but I'm going to say no.
I got 2 spots
to break up the
Tampa Bay.
Yes, can't count out Tampa with Vasilevsky in that.
Yeah, I'll give it another year.
Washington.
No.
I got no.
I'm going to say no, too.
Ottawa.
Yes.
Ottawa. I do believe Ottawa's getting in.
Flyers.
Nope.
No. Detroit.
No.
Yes.
You think
Tony,
yes?
you got like 10 teams going in.
No, but that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted.
All right, I
got I wanted, yeah. So you think yes to Detroit?
Think Detroit's going to go to the playoffs?
I don't think so. I think they're a couple years away.
I mean, I'm not 100%, but I think they can get in.
Okay, I'm going to say no.
I'm still saying no. Yeah.
All right, so Tony's the only one that says yes to that one. Okay, and then Columbus.
No.
Nah, they'll improve greatly, but
yeah, they'll improve, but they're not going to make it.
They'll win 10 more games this year than last year.
Between the three of us, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have, well, I'll say 10. 10 teams have gotten voted yes, and Boston is still a question mark. So, it is going to be, the whole Eastern Conference is going to be really hard.
Right.
But I think we can do the locks, right? The
division locks, at least ours, seemed a lot easier than the wild card scenario.
Like, we know the Maple Leafs are going to be there. We know Carolina is going to be there. And this is, of course, barring injuries or any kind of craziness. Sure. The Carolina is going to be there. The Rangers, the Devils, Tampa Bay. That might be the only locks, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that we can say out of that is going to be a lock. So I think that there is going to be, if we go by that, there's going to be 3 spots that are going to be battled for.
Right.
From the rest of these teams.
I'll tell you what this tells me. I really now hope more than ever that our prophecy on the division, the 1, 2, 3 lineup, whether it's Carolina topping us or whatever, is right, because I wouldn't want to be down there battling with these final spots.
No. And you don't want to be one of those teams that wins the division and gets a super hot Buffalo Sabre team coming in at the end, or a super hot Ottawa team that had to just lay it all out on the ice before they got into the playoffs. It's always a tricky spot. But I can't stand the new lineup. I don't like the way that they do it. I just wish they would go back to 1 through 8 and go that way. It just makes a lot more sense. And, if, like you said, if we have a team like Carolina that has a stranglehold on the Metropolitan Division and that goes, a big drop-off between 3 and 4.
All year who you're playing.
Yeah, it's going to be Devils Rangers for the next
again.
3 years, in the first round. And I don't want that.
Me neither. So this is really interesting that you did it this way because, I've got my 8 teams sitting here that I'm fairly comfortable with, and I didn't even put Boston in it.
Right.
And again, I know they're not going to have the same season. I don't think they're going to – it's possible they don't make the playoffs. I know they're going to fall, but do they fall enough where I can actually say Buffalo's going to take their spot or Ottawa's going to take their spot?
Well, who are your 8 that you have in right now, Bobby?
So, Toronto, Florida, Carolina, Rangers, Devils, Buffalo, Tampa, and Ottawa.
Buffalo, Tampa, and Ottawa. Okay, so the only one that we were different on. So you had Boston or no?
No, I didn't. At Florida.
Okay.
I don't think
you got Florida. See, the only change that I had with yours was I have Boston in, not Florida.
Okay.
So I have the Maple Leafs, the Bruins, the Canes, the Rangers, the Devils, the Sabres, the Lightning, and Senators.
Yeah.
And that would be awesome because there's a couple new teams that haven't been there for a super long time.
Now, circling back to our conversation just a moment ago, now I can see the scenario more of Florida not making it. Because when we put it in the perspective like this, with Boston on the outside, now I can see it as a possible. That could be the team that falls out, but that would be exactly what it looked like last year, right? It looked like Florida wasn't going to make
team, right? Because you got Allmark, you got the goalies. You just don't know because that's a big team. Like the Devils, we made a lot of changes this offseason, but in our hearts, I really believe that we're a better team. Boston.
Well, the changes the Devils made were additions. The changes the Boston made were all subtractions. And I know that I just think the Bergeron and Krejci not being there, I understand that they have Pasternak and Marchand. They have some very good players, Charlie McAvoy, Lindholm. They have some great players. And like you said, Olmark and Swayman are a great tandem if they stay with the team this year. But they're great tandems. But that front, their centers, I just, really, Pavel Zacha is their number one center right now. I don't know if that's a recipe to win. I just think that down the middle they're really weak, and it's a tough division. The Atlantic Division is real tough.
We knew they were going to have to dump a lot of dudes. We knew this was kind of coming for them.
Why'd you have
they
to
knew
say dump?
They had to pull a
Tony's used to dumping dudes.
they had to pull a Gigi Allen.
Dumping on dudes.
They had to. We knew it was going to happen, and now it's going to see it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I just can't wait until hockey starts. I mean, this little bit of preseason football is at least giving me a little bit of my sports fix, but I need that crack. I need friggin' hockey back.
I know. I
do have a list.
Have no baseball fucking excitement right now. Like, it's just miserable for me. It's like I don't even.
It's embarrassing.
I have a couple baseball questions for you guys because I'm not a big baseball guy. But why is it that baseball managers wear the uniform and they're the only coach that wears the uniform?
Yeah. I don't know.
Is there a reason for that?
I think that's just historic.
No, it's a good question.
Maybe
it goes back to when they were player managers and it just never left. I'm not sure. It does look a little goofy on some of the guys.
Yeah,
some pull it off. They all felt
70-year-old
still
overweight
in shape,
dude.
50.
Yeah, exactly.
Then there's the other side.
Yeah, and you see
like when they had
fucking Dusty Baker waddling out there like a what was that, Tone?
I miss the '80s when you had at least if they looked like that, you had Jim Leland puffing on cigarette butts over in the corner of the dugout.
Yeah.
Darryl Strawberry's banging chicks in the fucking in the locker room. Have you ever read the book? He was like,
no.
Oh, I read the book.
They were bringing girls in it was crazy. They were bringing girls in the dugout.
I just don't understand the whole management.
So in order to keep me from venting about the Mets, where I don't even want to give them that kind of energy right now, did you guys hear about the broadcaster from Baltimore who was at least pulled? I don't know if he's suspended or let go.
So what happened?
But basically, all he said, Baltimore's been bad for several years, right? And now they're very good. They're playing the Tampa Bay Rays. And all he said, I'm paraphrasing here, and he had a chart to back it up, they have more wins at Tropicana Field this year than they did the last three combined. Just putting it out there pregame.
Okay.
Kicked them off the show, took them off the air.
For what?
For that. All I know, I only saw it because Gary Cohen of the Mets blasted Baltimore's management for pulling the guy for something like that. And so I finally just read up on it. It's shocking. If there's more to it, I don't know. But I saw his video, the guy, and I saw Gary Cohen's response to it. But apparently it was, too negative, too true? I mean, what's wrong with that? If anything, that's just showing how good they are right now.
Yeah, I have no idea why they would suspend him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have the article here from USA Today. MLB announcers express outrage over reports of Orioles suspending TV voice Kevin Brown. I'm just going to kind of quick browse this article, and according to multiple reports, the Orioles suspended play-by-play announcer Kevin Brown after he made a comment in a pregame segment on July 23rd about the club's poor history on the road against the Rays. Brown pointed out, and an on-screen graphic reflected that the O's were 0-15-1 in their last 16 series at Tropicana Field, and that they had won as many games this season that they have in the previous 3 seasons combined. Exactly what you said. The suspension was first reported by the sports media site Awful Announcers. Oriole announcer Kevin moved from booth to comments, but and here's the clip. I don't understand. Where the hell did my stupid speaker go?
Man.
Yeah, I don't understand why he got suspended for that. That makes no sense. But yeah, that's a whole new level of cancel culture.
Literally nothing wrong with his statement.
I'll tell you, Bobby, I spent a lot of years going to Yankee games at Trop where the Rays play, and it is the worst. I have never, and the Rays have been successful for a while. And you would go to this park, and if it's not the Yankees, the Red Sox, these teams like that, it's unbelievably. They used to
nobody's there.
2 years ago, they used to let you bring food into the vet. You could bring food to the stadium and eat there. I've never heard of
Atlanta. Atlanta used to do that. My sister lived even when the Braves were good too. Like if you had bleacher seats, you were allowed to bring a cooler and actually have a picnic.
Awesome,
there.
actually.
Yes.
Yeah, but the other question for you guys is Ohtani.
Yeah,
one of the greatest baseball players I've ever seen in my life,
hands down.
Pitcher.
Now, is it Now, he's not like a guy that good at a sport as American as baseball should be a lot more famous and popular than he is. Yeah. And he's not. Now, is that because he's Japanese? Or is that because baseball is just, people just are losing touch with baseball? And
I think it's Anaheim, to be quite
you think
honest.
It's Anaheim?
I mean, nobody even knows who Trout is, and he was one of the best ball players in the world, too. But what Ohtani is doing is perhaps literally the greatest ball player ever. You know, an American game, Japanese starter, who's just phenomenal. And I love everything about him, because even as a kid growing up, I always just saying, why can't pitchers just hit too? You know, why can't we just be a full athlete like everybody else? This baby crap, and now this guy has proven it. I hope the whole world changes. I hope all the pitchers start doing it. Because you grow up fielding the ball and hitting the ball. I mean, they don't even let pitchers catch pop flies.
No.
They're $35 million a year, but don't touch that 10-foot pop fly.
Yeah, but you remember when Mariano Rivera was catching pop flies? He was done for the year.
I'm just saying, you should be capable of catching pop flies.
I agree, and I believe
Yankees history. Like, you remember when everyone wanted to be a Yankee? Do you think right now there is so much pressure on that organization? Like, as I hear guys turn it, like, there's guys that don't want to go there. Pitchers, obviously. You know, I think it was say Verlander, I think it was, right, who didn't want to go there. There's a lot of guys. You
do a whole show on why players don't want to go to New York. Either one of them.
Because it used to be a place. Now it's been such the last couple of years with it's been so cursed there. It feels
there's
different.
Definitely momentum, obviously, in any sport. We're seeing it now with the Devils. You have an up-and-coming team. It's all the talk is about the Devils, whether we're doing it or the experts. Like, there's always some buzz, and that brings people. When you got Stanley Cup championship aspirations or World Series, like legitimate, then you got all the momentum. But the Yankees gone down a little bit the last few years.
I heard 3 times this week generational player with Jack Hughes, and I loved it. Every time I heard it.
Well, I mean, he is, and I think
3 times in this week, and I was like, you know what? That just feels good to hear, right? I mean,
I think he is, and I think his brother is. I think Luke Hughes is going to end up being a generational player. He's phenomenal, and like you said about people coming to Jersey or coming to these teams, our buddy Bill from the Trap podcast. Anybody who's listening, please check him out. He does a good job. Him and his old man were talking, and he made a good point on his last show, saying how like Dougie Hamilton was the first one to really take that chance. That this was a team, and we could have gone either way, after that year. Like, is this team going to really, they're trying to do all the right things, but is it going to work? And then to go out and get the biggest free agent back then. Now, I know they offered him $9 million.
That's what you have to do in that position.
A lot to do with it.
Pay a little bit more.
You
bring
overpay,
that first guy. Yep.
But that he believed in what Tom Fitzgerald was selling and came here for it. And I think that did open a lot of doors. Just Dougie doing that and people saying, well, shit, Hamilton's there.
Do you remember, other than the fact that he was obviously the best free agent that year, there was no buzz about it. It was almost like, he went to the Devils. Like, nobody realized how significant that was. I'm sure some did. But what a springboard that was.
He was the biggest free agent, and everyone was kind of
but it's not like they gave us we were still picked to be dead last the next year. Year. Yeah. Because all the analysts were going, it's not that they're not getting better, but they're saying the same thing as us. Who are you moving out?
Yeah.
So not only did we not move a person out, we shot all the way up.
Yeah, I mean, what that team did from, and here's the thing, and we talked about this when we first started doing the show, 2 seasons ago, was a bad year, but you saw glimpses. And I actually did a whole breakdown with Dan on one of the shows where I went over every team that had made the playoffs that previous season, and we beat all of them at least once, and it wasn't a 2-1. It was like we had offensive explosions, 6-2, 7-2, and we did that once in a while. And if you remember that season, we'd always get down early because our goaltending was garbage. And then by the third period, we're down 3 goals, and we maybe only lose by a goal, or we maybe lose in overtime. They were these third period heroics that these guys were doing, and you saw these little glimpses, and it's just man, if they could stay healthy, figure it out between the pipes, there's something here. And then, to go to last year, I don't think anybody was expecting that. But you could have, you saw a little bit of the imprint the year before of what could be, and then it just exploding last year. And like I said, the only people I think was not surprised by the performance last year was the players on that team.
It's funny you mention that, because I take that into account for a lot of sports when I'm watching it, not just for where could they have been if things were slightly different per game, just from an entertainment standpoint. If your record's whatever, but you were in, like in baseball, but you lost by 1 run like 20 times. Entertainment-wise, I was probably engaged in that game for quite a while, but I do this with hockey too, where I've noticed exactly what you're talking about from that year, where it's like, this was a close game. It got close when it looked bad. All these things do point to something really good in the future. Yeah. And in retrospect, I definitely was starting to feel that at the end of that season.
Yeah, and the injuries and the goaltending were the biggest problem, but they did show those little glimpses. And I saw it last year with Buffalo. I saw these little glimpses, a few games that they could have won that they just weren't ready yet, but I think Buffalo is going to be a little bit scary this year. I do have a list. You guys want to do a list?
Let's do a list.
I have my top 5 New Jersey Devil coaches of all time. And I thought at first that this was going to be easy. And it really wasn't. And at first I was like, well, at least the 5th and 4th ones are going to be easy. Maybe I'll have a difficult time on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I found the 4th and the 5th very difficult.
I didn't give this much thought because it was your category. And just right now, my mind is flipping through, and I can see how very hard that is.
Yeah, it was tough. Now, number 5, I have Jim Schoenfeld. All right, now, I didn't get to watch too much Jim Schoenfeld because it was a little bit before my time, but he coached 124 games over 3 seasons for the Devils. He had 50 wins, 59 losses. He was sub 500 and 15 ties. He had 115 points and a .464 winning percentage in the regular season. He coached 20 games in the playoffs with 11 wins and 9 losses. Now, like I said, his numbers aren't good. They're really not. But he was the coach in 1988 that coached this team to their first ever playoff appearance. And because of that, he gets on the list. This team was Mickey Mouse organization. We know all the shit that was said about them. And then the first time they made the playoffs, which they even went on to the finals, the Eastern Conference Finals that year, it wasn't just a one and done. They actually had a bit of a run in '88, and that was all on Jim Schoenfeld. They won 11 games. They won 2 series, and they made it to Game 7 of the finals. And that was a really good team, and it was on the back of Schoenfeld. He didn't coach much more after that for the Devils. I think he was done in 1989, November of 1989. So it was like right before the season even started. Or when the season just started, he was gone.
He was battling with officials. Remember Don?
Yeah, I do. But Jim Schoenfeld gets number 5. Number 4. Any guesses on number 4, guys?
I'm gonna say
just four's tough. I think I can probably figure out your top 3, but
I think everyone could probably figure out the top 3.
Herb Brooks, just as a
Herb Brooks only coached like a year, not even with the Devils.
1 year. 1 year with them.
Yeah, and I don't think he had a very good record.
40 wins, I think it was, for something like that.
Thinking you could be going like Turek, Angle, or now what about just went to San Jose and then Vegas.
Are you talking about?
Why am I forgetting?
Oh God,
forgetting his name.
It's who you think it is.
Yeah,
it's not Robbie Ftorek. Even though Robbie Ftorek was an honorable mention, but it wasn't Ftorek. It's Peter DeBoer.
DeBoer's a very successful coach. I mean, a lot.
Yes,
4 seasons with the Devils, 2012 to 2015. He coached 248 games. He had 114 wins and 93 losses, 269 points, a .542 winning percentage. He was hired to succeed John Madden. Remember, John Madden came in after we won the 2011 season, and it was just a complete disaster. And then DeBoer came in 2012, took these guys right to the Stanley Cup Finals. He won the Eastern Conference, lost the finals in 6 games to the Kings. His playoff career with the Devils is 24 games, coached 14 wins, 10 losses, and a .583 winning percentage. Peter DeBoer, this team was not supposed to make it to the finals. They weren't. Peter DeBoer came in, shot a little bit of something into this team, and they go on and they have basically a Cinderella run. Nobody expected them to do it in 2012, and they ended up falling short to a really, really good Los Angeles Kings
and had to beat their rivals in the Eastern Conference Finals again. That was pretty epic. The Scorpion
had
save
to beat
and
the
all
Rangers
that.
in
Great
these
series.
Yep.
And I've heard nothing but positive things about Pete DeBoer from players who have played for him. Like I listened to a
he
lot
just
of the
can't win the big one.
Yeah.
I was still surprised that he left. I remember that. I really liked him as a coach. I really appreciated what he did. I forgot all about Madden.
Yeah,
John I think I just erased it from my mind.
It's funny, like when you do this research and you're actually looking to see some of these coaches. Like there were a lot of coaches that I forgot coached. Yeah. You know, one year we actually have it just on like the hockey analyst network or whatever it is has just it says something like the bench bench coaches. Like I think that was the year that Lamorella came down and decided he was going to coach. But yeah, Peter DeBoer. 4 years, almost got them there, very, very close, but I'll make him number 4.
Now, he came in right after Lemaire, right? Because Lemaire went to 2011. He came back for the second time. And DeBoer
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, because he
I think you're right.
2 stints with Lemaire.
Now,
before you go on, just so you know, I'm not going to guess your 3 in order, but I wrote it down. So that I'm not going to lie if I agree or disagree with you, but I think I know which way you're going. But it could go any way.
Did you put them in order? In your order?
In fact, I guess I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, number 3 for this exercise, I have Pat Burns. Yeah. Pat Burns, 2 seasons, 2003, 2004. Just before I get into his stats, like just a hard-nosed, badass coach. Took 0 shits from everybody. This guy had the balls no matter who you were. If he didn't like you the way you were playing, he was benching you. And, I mean, look, Ken Danico was benched for a lot of the finals in 2003. Yep. And Pat Burns gave 0 shits. He did not care. He would sit Gomez. He'd sit Lemieux. Sit anybody. If he didn't like what he was doing. He was a hard ass, and he could be, because out of all of these coaches, he has the highest winning percentage out of any of the Devils coaches that are on this list, with a winning percentage of .634. He's coached 164 games, 89 wins, 45 losses, 22 ties for 208 points. Like I said, extremely demanding, takes his team to its 3rd Cup victory. In the playoffs, he had 29 games. He coached 17 wins, 12 losses for a .586%. And he won everywhere he was. Yeah. And, you know, it's a shame what happened that he got sick and he couldn't stay with his team. But, I mean, because I think he would have been the coach for a long time.
I agree.
And it was one of those guys that, at the time, you had a lot of veterans on this Devil team. You had a lot of guys that knew everything that they had to do. They knew how to win. They won before. So to them, when you were coming in, and you saw this with Robbie Faturak, with the team kind of, him losing that locker room and the team not buying what he was selling, it could have been very easy for this team to not buy what Pat Burns was selling because of the way he coached and his style of coaching, but they bought in. The respect factor was there right away.
I don't think it's a reach at all to say they don't win the 2003 Cup with a different coach.
I agree.
I mean, because that guy was a pretty opposite of maybe some others you got on that list, with a lot of the same personalities on the team. And it wasn't an easy one either. 2003.
I like Pat Burns. I mean, I remember he was with Toronto, Boston. Yep.
So hard.
This guy, he's coached over 1,000 games.
Dude, he was a cop.
He
was a Boston cop, right?
He was a freaking cop. No, he was a Canadian. He was a Mountie.
Right, sorry.
He was a Mountie.
Yeah, and the guy just had this look on his face, right? I mean, the guy just. I mean, I liked Pat Burns. I definitely agree with you that without him, I don't know if we won that cup. And he did make tough decisions because I remember how Danico said that he didn't think he was even going to. Actually, Danico was saying that when they said, "Okay, you're going to go in this game. You're going to go in tonight." He almost didn't. It was a part of him that was like, "Man, I don't want to fuck this up."
He told Burns, he said, I don't think it's the right idea. Yeah. I don't think it's a good idea to put me in. And Burns said, no, you're going in. And he was there, and they won it. And those two battled. I mean, they had some battles. And so did him and Gomez. Like, they were, Gomez was this young, snot-nosed kid and, playing and being himself, being his abrasive way, and Burns took 0 from him.
Well, it's like
and
you said,
everyone
known as a hard-nosed dude.
Yeah, and everyone that played for him on those Devil teams that I've heard, they all say the exact same thing. That, like, yeah, he was miserable. You hated playing for him when you played for him, but when that season ended, you look back and knew you weren't going where you got if it wasn't for him. So that brings me to number 2. Who, this guy is my favorite all-time Devil coach, but I just could not give him number 1 because, it is what it is. Larry Robinson. All right, 4 years, 173 games coached, 87 wins, 56 losses, 19 ties, 204 points, .59 winning percentage, 48 games in the playoffs for 31 wins, 17 losses, and a .646 winning percentage in the playoffs. Wins the Cup in 2000, takes the team to the Eastern Conference Final, or the Stanley Cup Final in 2001. Comes in, first of all, the assistant of Jacques all those years, in the mid-'90s. So, guy comes from being an amazing player in Montreal to an amazing assistant coach. I think he was a head coach for LA at some point. I think he had a couple of short stints with teams and didn't really stick. And then Robbie Ftorek gets canned like 5 or 6 weeks before the playoffs start in 2000. Bring Robinson in. They get into the playoffs, and that was it. It was over. He just took this team to a different level. They played harder for Larry Robinson than I ever saw this team play for any other coach. That Devil team.
Let's not forget, too, that he was so influential in the Devils even making it that far. When you look at that Flyers series, down 3-1, that also doesn't happen without Robinson's demeanor. The way he ran that team, the way he, told them, have fun, play hockey, be you. I'm sure there was choice words in there, too, when he needed it, but he was the demeanor they needed at that time, at that year, to win that cup, because they did a lot of amazing things.
We talked about Ftorek earlier. He lost that locker room, and they were not playing for him at all. And Lamoriello was smart enough to see from upstairs that, this team's going to make the playoffs, and if I keep this guy behind the bench, they're going to be gone in the first round. And he was smart enough to not say, so I'm going to take over the team into the playoffs. At least he didn't do that this time.
Does only that on even years.
Right. Brings in Robinson, who... There's nothing that Robinson was going to see on the ice that he hadn't seen already. This guy won, 9-10 cups with Montreal? It's ridiculous.
I had heard a story that year with when Robinson became the coach, is that Ftorek, I guess he basically, disrespected Robinson in front of the team. And I guess Lamoriello caught word of this. And there was a whole big trail to this that season.
I never even heard that.
Yeah, there was something that he had something happened with Robinson and him.
This isn't really the podcast to make shit up, Tony. I'm just saying.
I know, right? No, it's fact, man. It's a fact.
All facts are checked before airing this episode.
Number 1. Now, Bob, would you have these 3 coaches in the same order?
I did not. But I was coming at it from a different angle. I know, obviously, how you feel about this coach. I also knew who your favorite coach was.
Right.
So I thought maybe you were going to flip the screws, but I am 100% behind your decision on this.
It's got to be Jacques Lemaire.
Right.
You say what you want about the guy. 7 years, 509 games coached for the Devils, 276 wins, 166 losses, 57 ties, 619 points for a .608 in the winning percentage. Playoffs, 61 games coached, 35 wins, 26 losses, .574 winning percentage. Look, they don't win a cup without Jacques Lemaire. And Jacques Lemaire's coaching style and the system that he implemented that we all know now as the trap changed the league. It changed the NHL. And there's not many coaches that, first of all, had the personnel to be able to do what he wanted to do and do it right. 1994 takes the team to the Eastern Conference Finals. Anybody who knew anything about hockey watched those Eastern Conference Finals between the Devils and Rangers and said, whoever wins this series is winning the cup. And they were right. And we were so close. In Game 7, overtime, Stéphane Matteau, wraparound goal on Brodeur. Rangers beat Vancouver in 7. But Jacques Lemaire to be able to have a team that just 10 years earlier was being called a Mickey Mouse organization. They didn't even belong in this league. And then he brought them to respectability. And they stayed there for a really long time. And all of that is on the back of Jacques Lemaire. And, the guy leaves, goes to Minnesota, was their first ever head coach. And he did very well in Minnesota. They didn't have the structure of the team that we had. But everybody says, oh, the trap is boring and defense is boring and this and that. Jacques Lemaire also was smart enough to look at this team and say, I don't have 50 goal scorers. I have, basically you would look at this team and say, I just have really good character guys. And I'm going to implement this system. And it had been done before and it had been done after. Never been done as good as the Devils did it in 95. Right. So for that, just first time that as a Devil fan, you can lift your head proud and you could say, yeah, last year we almost got there. And you see this so many times in sport, right? A team almost gets there one year, and then the next year they just poop the bed. Yep. Not the Devil team. They come in 95 and go all the way and win the cup. And just because of that and because of just his persona behind that bench and what it meant for that team, he was just as much a recognizable Devil as Scott Stevens or Marty Brodeur. It was Jacques Lemaire behind the bench. He's got to be the greatest coach in history.
With Jacques Lemaire, he's always been a winner. I mean, the guy's won 8 Stanley
Yes.
Cups. I mean, as a player, he won 8 Stanley Cups at 12 seasons. He's only not made the playoffs 7 years out of 17 years coaching. I mean, the dude is fucking impressive. And not only that, if you remember when they won the cup in 95, he stood there like a proud father and watched them carry that cup. I remember him just standing there and that glare in his face. And it just, how could you not make him number one? I think we all knew he was going to be number one.
It was tough between him and Larry Robinson, but at the same time, I have to also look at this and say Larry Robinson's never in the position in 2000 if it's not for Jacques Lemaire, because Jacques Lemaire brought him into this organization, and that's a big part of it. And then he melded with this. And you say he looked on after 95 winning the cup as a proud father, and you're watching 2000 this year, right? And Larry Robinson, they win the cup in Dallas, and he's going batshit crazy.
Ice,
jumps over the boards. He almost falls 4 or 5 times. He's running, sliding all over the place. That was just awesome to see.
I remember when Lemaire won a gold medal. He won it with what? He had Lindy Ruff. He was assistant coach with Lindy Ruff, Mike Babcock, and Ken Hitchcock in 2010. Okay. He won a gold medal.
I remember that. Now,
Ruff and him were together then. I just popped in.
Because of this list, right? Now we look at the coach we have in Lindy. Lindy wins a cup. Does he knock somebody off this list? Definitely, he knocks off Jim Schoenfeld. Definitely, right?
Guys, I'm actually always impressed how people aren't impressed.
And he knocks off Peter DeBoer. So he automatically gets no less than third, right? I mean, because you got to win a cup.
So the real question is what happens when he wins 2, right?
If we have a coach that wins, because look, we have 3 cups and 3 different coaches that took us there. Right. If we have one guy behind the bench to win 2 cups, they would be number 1.
You're the man.
They would have to be.
I'd like to do this list again when that happens, because you still got to jump Lemaire, like you said. That's tough.
It is going to be tough to jump
Lemaire's our
Lemaire.
First, right? Lemaire's he's our first. He won our first cup for us. We remember.
You never forget your first.
You never forget.
Some down years after 95 too. I mean, made the playoffs. Well, didn't make it in 96.
That's true.
97, couple rounds.
Now 97. I thought that. Didn't we lose in the first round in 97 to Pittsburgh?
I believe it was the first round. Then it was the second round in 98, I think. That's right.
Okay.
First round in 99, and then we won in 2000.
And then we won in 2000. It just, look, I mean, I hope that Lindy Ruff has the skill set to put it together to win the cup, and even to win 2, but his age says a little bit different. He still doesn't have a contract. This is something
Fitzgerald sound very confident in him today, though, when I listened to Fitzgerald.
Well, Bob, you had some stuff that you wanted to talk about before we wrap up tonight about the Tom Fitzgerald conference. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out a few things. I listened to the Spittin' Chicklets podcast, which is basically the NHL podcast.
I love it.
They 650,000 followers and stuff like that. And just to summarize a couple key points, it's very much in line with everything we've said. There's not going to be anything earth-shattering here. But to hear it from him, just kind of validates a lot of what's being said. So in regards to the team and the contracts and all, and how he's able to trade guys and give up assets without the security of knowing if they were coming, like Timo Meier, he said, again, he's like, these players, they've bought in. They want to be here, and they want to be in a place where they can win. And he did that analogy again, where not everybody can make the top dollar in order to, field a team together. And he's like, we're not going to have anybody here that doesn't want to be here. So that was kind of point number one. This one I loved. He said, we don't need Nemec to make this team. So think about what would happen if he does. I'm paraphrasing that.
Yeah.
That is an excellent point. So, as of right now, he's not penciling him in. He's not saying this guy's number 6. He's saying he's coming to camp, and he's going to open our eyes for sure. But right now, he doesn't need him on the team.
Which is, really a good position to be in. And, Colin Miller is going to be that guy. But if, how great would it be, like you said, to have Nemec come in to training camp and do what Mercer did a couple of years ago and just make it impossible for them to send you down.
And again, his theme, as always, is we want competition.
Yeah.
We want as much competition as possible. On Carolina losing, the question to him was it inexperience that played into it a little bit? And he said, yeah. He said he believed that there was this kind of like, wow, there's an even another level that we need to get to. Part of that is kind of like we talked about, right? Being maybe a little expended from the Rangers series, and the other part of it is just how good Carolina was. What's that?
Remember? I can't. What do you say about the Rangers series? How he would give, when they beat the Rangers, he would give something anytime to get that to happen.
I glanced over that too. I didn't.
It was
We'll have
funny.
to look that up. Yeah. He mentioned that he did feel like the players needed to celebrate the year, for sure, because of the accomplishments, but that he wanted them to remember the feeling of losing.
Yeah.
Right, and that's how you go up a round or two. He always backed Lindy. He said he loves the way he works with the young guys, that he doesn't sit mistakes. Right, we've talked about that too. Let's see.
Now,
that's what they said, right? They said, they said to Tom, they said, they're doing a fire Lindy chance. He goes, yeah, because after 2 games, he had that sarcastic, after 2 games, you really need to panic.
But he doesn't have a contract yet. At least nothing that was announced.
This was a few days ago. It was right before he signed Ball. Ball was next on the list, so I'm sure it's coming.
I mean, it might even be done, and we just don't know it because they might not have announced it. But it's, I hope that there's no issues as far as, him definitely coming back. I can't see why there would be.
He said he's coming back. He's coming back.
Going on about maybe money or whatever, or term. But,
right.
I mean, look, he's an older dude. He's been around for a long time, Lindy Ruff. I've said it a million times, man. So surprised, happily surprised, at how this old dude was able to connect with these young kids. Because, it kind of going into that 2 years ago, I'm looking at this going, they got to get somebody younger. They need to get somebody that can kind of, speak their language.
Yeah, but Tom said that's why he brought them in there, is because of his skill with the younger players. That was one
right.
He
also spent a lot of time discussing the manager, coach relationship and how it needs to be a certain way. And he spent a couple minutes on the relationship he has. The question was, you can't tell him who to play, right? And of course it was no, that's where the relationship comes in, just a mutual understanding of where the team needs to go. So he's definitely got Lindsay's back. He'll be signed. Last 2 points, one was about Jack, and he was just gleaming on Jack's authenticity, how he's so true to himself and who he is, and he says what's on his mind and the way he says it. He said that's just Jack. That's just, he's not going to pull any punches back. He mentioned how he's made comments to other team members, about what needs to be done. So he had nothing but, as we would expect, glowing remarks for Jack and his brother. And then finally he touched on Alexander Holtz.
Interesting.
And he did say that what he expects from him is more pace. Keep the feet moving, keep the skating going. He says he's already a great passer. Everyone knows what he could do with the shooting. So it's about more pace, definitely coming into camp in shape. And he said he takes some of the blame for what happened with Holtz last year, because he did start off on the team. And then the fourth line was playing extremely well, which actually ate into a lot of minutes, which limited his time. And then once they went on the 13-game winning streak, he's like, it wasn't going to change anything. So, yeah, he didn't there was a question about, is it a block in the top 6, why his development is suffering? He didn't answer that directly, but indirectly you did get the sense it was kind of like, yeah, we didn't really have the opportunity for him. I should have sent him down a little early. He did say he should have sent him down a little earlier. But it is kind of a block situation, so this year's going to be very interesting because I've said, sure, he can win that third spot in the third line and be valuable. But I don't think that's where Holtz needs to be. So if that is a better role for Foote or somebody, then, again, maybe it is likely that Foote becomes that asset that can be traded. But the organization is still very high.
You mean Holtz becomes that asset?
Holtz becomes,
yeah. I know what you meant. But, Holtz's problem is not... It's up here, right? It's between his ears. Like, that's his problem, right?
Skating,
There's something not clicking.
It's his skating is what they're saying, and it's not like effort a little bit, right, Tony?
But again, I think that falls.
Criticizing that the most, I think.
It kind of falls at his heart and his brain when it comes to certain things. Like, he's just not picking it up. It seems to me like it's just more of a. He seems like the type of dude. Like, I've called him Pavel Zacha light for ever now, and I still stand by that. I do feel like, unlike Zacha for the Devils, it just never clicked with him. He'd show very, very brief little flashes. I hope that when it does click with Holtz, that it's with us, and it does really click, because we've said it a gazillion times, at least I have. The idea of Alex Holtz is awesome. The dude with a freaking rocket shot like that is a bigger guy, that can young, and he can really fit in with this team. Where do you put him? That's the big question.
But
where do you put him?
If he actually can be what we think he could be, he can also become a big asset to make that one move. Not 12 moves before the playoffs, but if you have to make that one move, maybe a goaltender. As we all know, that might be a concern.
He's valuable in that regard. But again, I'm not anointing him a top 6 forward in the NHL. I'm just saying, if the opportunity arises where he makes the roster because of his play in camp and what he can possibly do, there's already a ton of line shuffling that goes on with Lindsey Ruff teams anyway. But you could make the argument that you could put the onus more on a seasoned forward who could play that third line role and still get 20 plus, 25 goals, like a Toffoli or something. I just saying, because I don't know how much value he's going to be on that line. I don't want him to just be, there's a spot for you, but not a role. I'd rather have the role filled and then ship him out for something we really need.
I also feel like there might come a point that Alex Holtz decides, you know what, I might need a change of scenery. I might need to go somewhere where I can be a top 6 guy and be part of, a team growing and develop that way. I mean, look at Sharon Govich out in Calgary. I think he's going to be okay out there. I think he's, he's not going to fucking light it up. He's not Jack Hughes, but he'll do better than he did for us.
Does. I mean, shit, we saw glimpses of him where I was really excited that first season. I was like, oh shit, man.
I think a guy like Holtz would look good in a Winnipeg Jet jersey. I'm just saying, a Winnipeg Jet jersey, first, second line. We could take that goalie, put him in a Devils jersey.
The Hellebuck thing, man. I was thinking about this today because everywhere you look, because we all know everybody's kind of dead for it. Right now is like the slow time, right? I am so fuck. Aren't you guys? The Hellebuck thing is like it's on everyone's tongue. I get it, but I just don't think we're making a move. I think in goaltending, I think we're going to start out with these two dudes. I
think so too. And what's interesting, just regarding the whole thing? This could be one of those situations where, a few years down the line, we look at all the intricacies that are going into Holtz right now. Why he's not there? We can think of a million reasons. If we didn't even pick up the Folty this year, maybe he's on a top 6, whatever. But it could be one of those situations where he goes to another team, he lights it up, like, oh, look what the Devils let go. Because it's just what you remember. You don't see this whole process of all these years. And it's not that he's not a good player. It's just maybe he's not a fit for us anymore because we excelled faster than we thought. We had to get some veterans in here. So history is going to show, maybe, if he leaves and scores 40 goals a year, that the Devils traded their 7th round.
If he leaves and he scores 40 goals somewhere and the Devils win their 4th cup, nobody, you know what I mean? Like, that's fine. That's fine. Like, you got to, I've said it, and I believe it, that I don't care what the name on the back of the jersey is. If it's that simple. You're playing for the team. If Alex Holtz goes somewhere and he lights it up, that's fantastic. If we're successful, because of him leaving or whatever, I'm fine with that. I have no problem with that. You can't sit there with buyer's remorse, and you can't keep everybody. That's the whole other thing. Like, you can't keep we all like all these guys, but there might come a time where some of these guys are going to have to go. And the next
it was time. We had to do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, that was a little different, too, because the team was bad. So even as a Devil fan, you're kind of like, you let them go try and win a cup somewhere.
They won two of them, right? It worked out for that dude.
So that always comes.
I'm just trying to speak to, so much more that happens than you see on the surface. There's not a person in the organization that thinks that Holtz is a bust. It's just, is it working out here? And this is what just kind of gets lost in all this training and building of a team, and it doesn't mean anything. Like I said, he can go score 40, he can go be a bust. We don't know, but it's just so interesting how much time and effort is put in. These decisions aren't made lightly. It's not just let's get rid of this guy.
And like you said, we don't know whether he's a bust or not. But here's the thing. You have to find out now. Now you have to find out. So it's either he's going to be on this team and he's going to get regular minutes and he's going to either produce or not, or he's just going to ship him off somewhere.
This is a no-passenger team.
You want. Yeah, we don't have time for this. I think the team is very high on Nolan Foote. He's much more of a character guy. He's more of a bottom six guy. He's an easier guy that you can fit in a role. When you have a team with a top six like we have, and then you have a guy that's trying to get into that top six that's a developmental guy, and it's kind of like, dude, unless somebody breaks an ankle, I just don't see it. I mean, are you going to move Mercer down?
And
really, he would be the one that you would maybe consider moving to that third line if you feel that Holtz needs to play with the upper echelon guys. But
I think that's where I put him in our little thing.
Yeah, so I mean, it is very it is like you said, there is a lot of thought and a lot of careful consideration from people much smarter than us about what goes down and how you actually evaluate a developmental player.
And plus, we have to remember, we were very fortunate last year. We had injury-wise, we didn't get
got nothing.
Yeah, we got it. I forget that, but we really didn't have a star out for 7 months, or 6 months or whatever. We didn't have
because it all happened the year before, so we kind of got the pass this year. You go back the year before, right? You had Hughes out after game 2 when he busted his shoulder up against Colorado. You had goaltending was just atrocious. Hamilton busting his jaw, and it was not right even when he came back. He sure missed a bunch of games, especially towards the end of the year. It was a disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, that season.
Got lucky.
But, and this team, though, is so deep that even, because you're going to get injuries, man, it's just going to happen. Yeah, you want to be healthy come March and April to get into the playoffs, but, we're probably, out of those top 6, we're going to lose games to, injury. But we're so much deeper now that you feel like, if Tyler Toffoli goes out for, 8 or 9 or 10 games, we're okay. If Timo Meier goes down for 10 games, we're going to be okay. If Jack Hughes goes down for 10 games, let's just go to 500.
Let's play 500.
Yeah, that's it.
Some reason Lazar always slips my mind. We have him. I don't know what it is. I just keep on for some reason that dude. I forget he's on the team. Then I remember. I'm like, oh shit, we got Lazar.
Well, I actually forgot about him too. But you look at the bottom 6, right? That's where the battles are going to happen, man. Those are in training camp. I mean, we got a lot of guys that are probably, a good 8 to 9 guys that are buying for 6 spots. So that's going to be kind of fun, right?
Yeah, we focus a lot on Holtz and Foote. You know how many teams would want a Graham Clark in their minor league system? I mean, Jesus.
And I said,
someone who they moved this year. You don't know,
You don't know.
I think Graham Clark is going to make the team. And I think he's going to make the team over Alex Holtz.
I was really bummed. I've said it a million times since I was bummed last year when he came up. I was like, okay, we're going to see this kid for a game,
They didn't play him.
He just sat up in the booth and then back to Utica.
It's going to be so much fun. And then I think, because we're going to be wrapping this up because I have a little business I have to take care of. So, but Dan, I believe, will be back in a couple of days. So I think
Dan and his 47 children are heading back from Florida?
There's 48.
From the Future United Cuckold Kids Convention.
Do they have a bus, or is it like a Partridge Family mobile or something?
They have a camper. They have a big camper. They have a, what does he drive? They have a a Toyota Sequoia that he drives. He loads everybody up in, and
fuck yeah,
he's got 4 kids. And so they're going down. They went down to Florida, but he has a nice big camper, which it used to be big. Now the kids are bigger, so I don't think they go. So it's it's good for him. So he goes down to Florida with all of them. It's not like they're paying $400 a night for a hotel. They get a campsite. They have it. They go to the parks. Every summer they usually travel. They'll go across country. Like they're usually gone. Now that the kids are older, though, they all have work and other shit going on, so they don't get out there that much. But it's a nice gig. He's got a nice setup. He's got a beautiful family. They're all very cool. So, but he should be back in a couple of days. I texted him earlier today, but he didn't text me back to see what time when he was going to be back. So we're going to do another show, hopefully with all 4. We'll get back to The Devil You Know, because we haven't been able to do it, because that's a four-man job. Yep. So we will definitely do that, and we're going to come back probably Saturday night, if everybody's available. We'll do another show, talk about nothing, because nothing's going on. And maybe we'll get the intro correct, at least. We can start with that, Guys, thank you so much for checking us out. And wherever you are listening to us, please subscribe, give 5 stars, like, tell a friend, whatever. Just really goes a long way to help us promote this podcast, which, thanks to our listeners, is going in the right direction. So for that, we really thank you. We are the Uncle Puckers. For Bobby and Tony, I'm Chris, and we'll see you when we see you.
Later. Puckers out.
There you go.
There you go, Dan.